Hello, everybody. My name is Elling Lien, and I'm the executive director of Unpossible NL. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but anyway, I feel like I'm talking into the internet as usual. This is the internet. I'm the executive director of Unpossible NL, and we're coordinators of the RPM Challenge. And it's my great pleasure today to introduce a Newfoundland musician that I've been a really big fan of for a long time. And every last piece of music that I've heard from her resonates with special kind of like honesty and heart and intelligence. And she's here today to talk to you about alternative tuning, something that I do not know a thing about, and I'm going to be uh, asking all of the dumb questions on your behalf. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'll bring them to her. Yeah, so her latest single is called Doorman, and it's available wherever you listen to your music. And yeah, Kat McLevey, everybody.
How's it going?
Oh, good. Now I can finally hear something that doesn't seem like I'm just talking into a box.
Yeah, I feel that.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Can you say something? I don't know if I can hear you okay.
Me. Can you hear me?
It's a little wonky, but I think I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Well,
much better. That's much better.
okay.
There we are. Okay. Here we go.
Just a little bit more Elling in the monitors.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Thanks for doing this today. This is really cool. I don't think we've ever really talked I've never really interviewed you so per se. So
Yeah.
this is kind of fun. We've talked a lot behind the scenes, but we've never really interviewed each other. I've never really interviewed you, and I've always been a big fan. So I have lots of great questions. I think.
Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you so much. I do. When I first started playing, I think you were one of the first people that I ever got feedback on any of my songs, really. So, um, yeah, it's really special for me to be here and talking to you today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The well, the thing I said about your music resonating with honesty and heart and intelligence, it includes the weird last minute improvised keyboard jam called Stinge
Oh
on
my
your
goodness.
2012 RPM Challenge album that I just re-listened to just a few moments ago. No one else has access to this anywhere on the planet. Um, but it just yeah, every track on that album. Just okay, yeah. Backstory: 2012. I was running the Scope newspaper, and we were running the RPM Challenge in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we accepted the local RPM albums, our RPM submissions, and we received this one from a person named Kat McLevey, and I listened to it, and just from the very first track, the track "Make a New Discovery."
Oh my goodness.
I know, and I promise not to embarrass you too much, but
This is all coming back, you know.
I know it's all
Kind
flooding
of,
back.
I buried it, but it's coming back.
But we were just blown away, and I wanted to be a big advocate for you and your music, and yeah, so I wanted to let people know about it, and yeah, I'm really happy that you pursued music. You went on to study music.
I did, yeah. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston from 2015 to 2019. And yeah, I mean, as much as anybody can pursue something professionally freelance during COVID, I'm still technically a musician uh, doing some cool stuff like this. So yeah, I live in Toronto now, but I'm really happy to be back in St. John's, and this feels like very familiar territory for me. So I'm very thankful for Folk Art Society and for you and RPM to be chatting.
Yeah, and can I just ask the first off, like, how did you get into music in general? Like, was music a
Yeah,
big part of your life growing up? Because it just feels like it would have been.
it definitely was. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and everybody, all my siblings older than me, had played instruments. They all play guitar. They were in the school band, so the house was covered in instruments basically. And we had a dog, and the dog would get on the couch, which we didn't want. So all the instrument cases would go on the couch to prevent the dog from going up. So really, my memories and the visions, or the things that I can remember from growing up, are just having like 3 different types of saxophone cases and violin cases and French horn cases, trumpet cases, guitar cases, bass cases, and just I remember too like curling up and lying in my sister's French horn case. I must have been like 4 or something, and yeah, it was everywhere. And I actually
French
I
horn
was
case. That's not even that. How big would that be? That would be.
it's tiny. I mean, it's I
That's just
remember
with your
fitting in
arms
the
like.
case. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe.
Wow.
And
You're like a cat in a box.
literally, yeah. And I was reminded last night, I was having dinner with my aunt and some of my cousins, and they said that when I was really, really little, um, I had my violin, as I had been saying, for my violin. I must have been so young. But I think it started right away. There's pictures of me when I'm very tiny with like plastic instruments and things. But yeah, I went to St. Bon's, and right in kindergarten you start singing in choirs and doing music class, and so all the way through music was a big part of my time there. So yeah.
Hmm. Um, what about music do you like? I mean, this is a huge question, but like,
Yeah.
for you to take this kind of career path, what do you like? Why is music special to you?
I think that it's a really good way to connect with people, and it's a really good way to channel personal expression. And it's also a good way to, I don't know, connect with people that you maybe just met or that you don't know. And I don't know, I think it's definitely a very cathartic experience for me, whether I'm playing like as a backup musician or if I'm playing my own stuff. There's there's nothing quite like it in my opinion. Just feeling like so in it and locked in, and playing music with friends is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really fun. And getting to study in Boston
Mhm.
with people from all over the world. I feel like I got to learn so much about different cultures and histories just from listening to music from all over the world. And it feels really natural to me. There wasn't a question in my head when I was kind of like, well, of course I'll go to music school. Like, of course I'm going to pursue music. It just made a lot of sense. And yeah, I think it makes me feel really like myself. It makes me feel very grounded. And there's so much to explore. I'm also, I'm a big nerd, and I know that I'm never going to finish learning about music. There's always going to be things to explore, and I think that is that's reassuring. It's like, okay, good. I've picked something that I can keep making progress on for the rest of my life now. Yeah.
And what makes you gravitate towards the instruments that you play? Well, like you could very well have taken up the French horn.
You know what?
Per
I
se.
played. This is funny, but I played French horn for 8 years in school band.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
But I think probably my siblings had a lot to do with that. They were all playing guitar at the house kind of all the time, and my sister Mary, who's the next up from me in age, I'd spend a lot of time hanging out with her, and we would just play guitar together, or maybe play piano too. But I was really lucky to be exposed to so many different instruments. Like, I started on trumpet when I was in grade 4, and I took piano lessons for a really long time, and I eventually started playing French horn, then eventually started playing bass, and they were all things that my siblings had played. Like, none of those. I took violin lessons for a while. They were all things that I had seen and heard, and maybe I guess felt emotionally moved by. But I think, yeah, I was so lucky to be able to explore different instruments and to be afforded the opportunity to take lessons in a few of them and go to a school that had such a solid, great music program, and it just, I feel like it was just a very musically nurturing environment that I was always I always had someone cheer me on, and that really meant a lot too. But I mean, in terms of the instruments, I still, I went to school for electric bass, so I play that a lot. But I also, one of the reasons why I love guitar so much is actually related to our topic tonight. In alternate tunings, I just found that, you just put a couple fingers down and these beautiful chords come out. And, sometimes with piano, I would find, like, it just took a lot more trial and error to find, like, it didn't really click for me that much. And bass feels really natural, but guitar, I think, just, it started feeling, I guess I was getting immediate results. And then I just went along with it and kept learning and exploring it.
That's great. That's a great segue. I guess, I mean, we're not here to have me interview you, but you're here to explain a few things about alternative tuning. So I'll let you take it away
Sure.
I'll pop in occasionally with audience questions as things go along. But
yeah, definitely. Please feel free to pop in, because it is kind of strange talking to the void.
Definitely. Definitely. I understand. I'll be back.
Great. All right. Thanks, Elling. Okay, so here we go. Thanks to whoever's tuning in here tonight. We're going to talk about alternate tunings. Please, if you have questions, let me know. But I do have a couple things prepared that we can talk about. And also, if I'm going too quickly or not making any sense, let me know, too. It'll get back to me somehow. So, but yeah, let's get started. So, I think when I first was approaching open tunings or alternate tunings or alternative tunings, it's really just, it's a thing for creativity or inspiration to play. So when I was first learning guitar, I think maybe I was 12 or something. Small hands, small body. It's hard to play bar chords. I mean, nobody likes bar chords anyway, but particularly hard to play them when you're a small child. And so I think, I probably didn't come up with it on my own. One of my siblings had been playing in open tunings, but I quickly kind of learned that when you detuned one or many of the strings into a different pitch than standard tuning, then your hand shapes are going to have to change, and sometimes it's a lot easier than standard tuning. But the other thing is that sometimes you can find these chords or these sounds that wouldn't normally be accessible to you if you were in standard tuning. So, the easiest one that we can start with would be called drop D. And when I'm talking about strings and things, the high E string here, that would be string 1. So we'll talk about string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So first, let's tune this E string, the 6th string, down to a D. So one way to do that, our 4th string is a D. There we go. So, okay, things are going to be a little bit foreign. If I wanted to play my bar chord, it's not going to sound the same. It's kind of cool because it's like kind of like a hybrid chord or something. But let's think about it. If I wanted to make, or actually backtracking a little bit. So when I approach alternate tunings, a lot of what I'm thinking of is the bass note. So I am a bass player, but I try to move around the neck having the bass note of the chord on the 6th string here. And that's mainly because it frees up, these strings down here can ring, and I don't know, I'm a bass player. That's what I do. But, so let's, for example, find a 1, a 4, and a 5 card. So, D, I'm going to turn my tuner on just so I keep myself in check a little bit. So, okay, if my lowest note is a D now, then my open D chord, I just added an octave to it. So instead of just strumming strings 1, 2, 3, 4 and having a kind of what I would think of as a shallow sound, I now have an extra octave down. So already, I think it's awesome. But if I was gonna say, let's find the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord. So in the key of D major, your 4 chord, which for anyone kind of unfamiliar with that numbering system, I'm taking the notes in the D major scale and I'm assigning each one a number. So a 4 chord would be built on the 4th note of the D major scale, so D, E, F sharp, G. And I'm going to build a major chord on a G, so a G major chord. Let's find on the 6th string where the G is. And that would be on your 5th fret here. So let's think about it. Now we have our bass note. Let's take a listen to the other strings and see what we need to change. It's a little better. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something with this A string because it's not in the G chord. Okay, I can put I'm just using my ear here. I'm not really thinking about theory. I'm just saying, does it fit? So, 4th string. Perfect. That fits. Perfect. Fits. Nope. Fits. Alright, the E is a little bit funky on the top. That would be like a tension of 13, but for all intents and purposes, this is a great D sound. This is our D chord. I just have 2 fingers down. It can be any fingers. Any fingers that you want. So let's find the 5 chord. The 5 chord, if this is my D, the 5th chord of the 5th note of the scale is going to be A major. So my A is here on the 7th fret of the 6th string. So how would I just move that shape up? Before I had 2 fingers on 5th fret, let's do 7th fret. Okay, so let's listen to each string and see what we have to do. Okay, I don't love that in the chord, so maybe, alright. I'm gonna add another, on the 4th string, 7th fret. Let's hear just a 3rd. It's a little bit weird. Okay, maybe on this, let's change this 3rd string here. I'm just gonna put my finger anywhere. Alright, that's a minor. It's a minor sound. It's not even A minor. Those 2, string 1 and 2, that makes it sound very beautiful, actually. Cool, so that's a nice, if I want to make this major, I'm going to take the 5th fret, my index there, I'm going to move it up a fret. Cool. It's a very nice, beautiful, open sound. And it's very easy to do. It's a lot easier than a bar chord. All I have is that shape there. So even move it down to the 4th. So before, I didn't have my index, but okay, 4th, 5th, and our 1. It's our regular D major chord. So now in this drop D tuning, I already have a different kind of sonic landscape for whatever I want to do on this guitar. I'm going to do 6 minor. I'm going to go, the 6th note would be a B minor. So basically I figured out that this shape of having 3 fingers on strings 4, 5, 6 on the same fret, and then using my index either 1 fret back or 2 fret back, I can figure major, minor qualities of the chord. And I have these, the B and the E string up here. They're both what we call diatonic in the key of D, so they're in the scale, they're part of the scale, which means that any chord that's built, that's, part of the key, it's going to sound fine having that E and that B there. So I'm just going to let them ring. So already for me, I'm not, even though strings 1 to 5 are the same in standard tuning, as soon as I detune just one of the strings, I don't feel like I'm in standard tuning anymore. So I throw out all the technique and everything that I know about standard tuning and just purely use my ears to figure out some nice sounding chords. And that's how I approach all different tunings. But that's the drop D. But let's take it one further. Let's change this this E string, the 1st string. Let's change that to a D. So now I have going going from low to high, I have D, A, D, G, B, D. This is what we call double drop D. So instead of having an E as the first and the sixth string, we have a D for both of those. This is actually a tuning that I've been fooling around with a fair bit lately. And it just it has a different kind of ring to it. Let's use the same shapes as before and see what we're hearing. 4 sounds great. 5 sounds great. Kind of like that actually. Da, da. It's a nice little crunch there. Beautiful. So it has a bit of a different quality than the drop D. Still sounds great. And let's see, I'll play you a little something, just guitar part of something that I was, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's lots. There's lots that can be done. Basically, when you have a new tuning, my biggest kind of suggestion is just to spend time with it and to throw out everything you know about the guitar and just pretend that you're a newbie. And you have the skills of your ears to sound what's going to sound good, and you have the skills of using your hand-eye coordination to change chord shapes. And it's really it's purely an exploration. Yeah. Elling, there's not been any questions yet, has there? Because I know I just covered a whole bunch of stuff.
No questions yet, but I have a question. I mean, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm basically just saying something that you said before, but I just really love the idea of the idea that you make it unfamiliar for yourself, and then you're able to explore a little bit better. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's totally what I mean. I think, and I mean, you mentioned that 2012 RPM. I think, so much of those songs, I don't remember pretty much any of them, but I know those were all explorations at the time, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of different tunings used in there. And it was me just kind of, I didn't even know standard tuning very well, but I just knew that I didn't really like it. It just wasn't comfortable in my hands. So I was also learning guitar under the pretext of I don't know, it being an exploration and really relying on my ears and knowing that I couldn't necessarily go on guitartabs.com and be
this isn't what AC/DC would do.
Exactly. Yeah, I was really relying on myself to learn a lot, but I think it just kind of speaks to, for me, what the spirit of RPM always has been. For me personally, is just exploring something new and gaining new skills in music and exploring something you haven't done before. And that is literally what alternate tunings are for me. I did a music degree. I could nerd out if I wanted. I could be technical about it. I could think, okay,
throw down.
I could approach an alternate tuning technically or thinking about the notes, but that's not that's not the point.
Right. Yeah.
If I was, you can do whatever you want with these strings, just play with it.
You could chop them off and wrap them around your head.
Chop them off.
Just cut them off. I mean, you could figure out all the different appropriate chords in a detune.
Exactly.
I guess is that what you mean? I don't even know. But yeah, I understand. That's something I really understand. It's just improvising until something feels right, and then that process of eventually trusting yourself and your ear. can be tough for people. How
Absolutely.
did you get there?
Um, I mean, here a lot of time, everybody's really good at being their own worst critic,
Yeah.
and a lot of that might have to do with self-esteem and self-worth. And I think when I was first learning music, I was really, really fortunate to feel supported in what I was doing, and I felt like I was good at things. And I don't take that for granted. I know that for a lot of people, they didn't have that kind of support, or they didn't have that kind of belief in themselves, maybe. But um, I felt like I had permission to be really bad at what I was doing and to figure it out as I was going. Because
Yeah.
even when I was working, even when I was probably sitting in my bedroom or in the basement of my parents' house or something and just sounding awful at whatever I was doing, I would go upstairs at dinner and I would get positive reinforcement for what I'm doing and encouragement to keep trying. And so I think for me, throughout my time songwriting or playing guitar or even playing bass, it's kind of like I do really feel it's internalized in me that it's totally okay to be really bad at something. And when you're just starting out, you literally have to be bad at it. No one's, and not being hard on myself for not figuring it out right away. But also kind of trusting that if something sounds good to you and feels good to you, then kind of just, I don't know, it's okay to share it. And a lot of the times you get really good feedback, and sometimes you get really horrible feedback, and just kind of taking it all in stride.
Right.
Yeah, it's really just trying to. Honestly, I feel kind of like a kid every time I pick a guitar up and it's unfamiliar territory in a new tuning or something, and just letting go of any sort of like ego or even musical education that I have, and just like, and then something sounds good, it's like, oh my goodness, I want to show people that, like, listen to how good this sounds. And yeah.
uh I mean like sometimes it's you forget that the word the verb that you use for music is play music.
Exactly. That's so true.
And people take it so seriously, but
Yeah.
at the very heart of it is it's exploration and messing
Yeah, I
up a
think
whole bunch of times.
totally. And I think for some people who are probably under a lot of professional pressure as a professional musician to perform right every time, or in whatever particular idiom that they're playing in, or whatever kind of facet of music that they're working in. I know that not everybody has the opportunity to just sit around and mess up. And I do find myself in a particularly like lucky position and to have creative freedom, so to speak. I'm not on a label or anything. I don't have pressure from anybody to crank out good stuff all the time. I can just take whatever time I want to
Right.
explore and play. So yeah, I feel really lucky for sure.
Lucky, it'd be nice if it was like a steady gig and a big
I
paycheck,
mean,
but
COVID though,
yeah,
it'll get back.
it'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you. I don't want to take away from the time for the tunings, but I have a question about how your time with Tim Baker. You were
Yeah.
a bassist with him
Yeah.
for his tour. How
Yeah.
did that go for you?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. I was living in Boston still, but I was graduating in the summer of 2019 and going to be moving back to Canada, and I didn't have plans yet. But I think it was maybe earlier in 2019, Tim had reached out, and he was creating this new project of having a trio tour with him, because we were going to be opening for Half Moon Run, which is a really big band around Canada and the States and Europe, and we were going to be opening, so it's going to be a short set. We don't want to, Tim wasn't, probably financially and just logistically, like, you couldn't take his whole band with him. So he hired me and my now roommate, Stephen Foster, to tour with him. And I think I got hired because I could sing and play bass at the same time. So Tim was looking for somebody who played bass and someone who could sing backups, because he wanted there to be a lot of time, like the three of us singing on the songs. And Steve's also like very, very accomplished musician and very amazing at singing and drumming at the same time. And so I came to Toronto in September for a week of rehearsals, and then a month later or something, we hit the road and we went across the states with Half Moon Run. And then I got back here to St. John's and had no idea what I wanted to do, but I just kind of sent Stephen Foster a text asking if he knew anybody subletting a room in Toronto, and he was like, yes, me. So 10 days later, I drove to Toronto by myself and subletted his room, and yeah, so really that tour with Tim was a big catalyst in me deciding to move to Toronto and getting welcomed into the community there, because Tim was living there at the time, and yeah. And also, come on, it's Tim Baker. So
I know,
people
right?
thought it was really cool, and then I got hired for other things. So thank you, Tim.
Yes. I want to take a step back and ask how you approach writing your own music. What kind of space do you need to be in order to write a song?
It's interesting that you ask that, because I've been kind of grappling myself with that question, because when I was in school, I didn't create time for myself to do that. A lot of it was learning, and you just have such an overload of things that you have to do, and you're really busy. And so I was never able to write songs in Boston, like my own kind of songs. But then when I would travel home for Christmas or for the summer, I would just write a bunch in like a week or something. And it was just something about maybe the familiarity of being home, or once I went in like a cabin in the woods and wrote, a bunch of songs there.
Right, the old story about going into the cabin in the
so
woods.
Classic.
Got a wood stove.
But just kind of, I need space and I need time and I need to not have other things in my mind. Yeah. So that's a really hard thing to achieve for anybody, obviously. But just kind of in the time of COVID and living in Toronto, having everything closed down, not doing any gigs, I obviously did have a lot more time for that, so I did start writing again. And I did realize that, yeah, I need to be thinking about it throughout the day. I need to be writing a lot of things down, just like ideas, lines, feelings, whatever, or playing a lot of guitar and not even singing and just exploring a new tuning, or playing in an old tuning, trying to find new things. But it's way more laborious now than it was when I was 15 doing that RPM. Like, I had a lot to say, and I just, like, it came so fast. And for the first, like, 4 or 5 years of gigging and playing here in St. John's, really, things were really rolling really fast, and writing a lot of songs all the time. And then I went to Boston, and it was kind of shocking to just be like, I can't write any songs.
So you were hit with writer's block, I guess.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know that there's techniques to get past writer's block. There's you can do morning pages, which is where you wake up and you write whatever for 10 minutes, or doing like object write. Like, there's lots of things that you can do to get yourself out of a writer's block. But I was kind of stubborn about it and was like, no, this is a natural process, I don't want to do that. Which was really silly. But
in that you wanted to stay in that state, or do you just felt like it would pass over time?
I wasn't too worried about it, especially just because I was in the States, so I wasn't gigging my solo stuff, and I was, I was in school for other things. But maybe in those kind of, I think I wanted to believe that I didn't need the crutches, so to speak, even though that's really not what they are. I'm trying to get out of that headspace of thinking that using tools is
Right.
in any way inhibiting the natural process. But
Tools and concepts like alternative tunings.
I know. But yeah, it's when I moved to Toronto, when I left Boston and I didn't have this, when I wasn't in school and I had a lot more time to just sit and process things, then I was able to kind of give myself that solitude or that alone time to get in the zone, so to speak.
Right. I wondered if you could try out a different tuning right now and just
Sure.
kind of explore like how you would explore, as you would, I guess. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Replicate your process. No.
Sure thing. No, let's do it. I have 7 tunings written down that I was gonna talk about, and I'm gonna build off one of those. So I'm not gonna do the same one, but I'll build off of it. So I'm actually gonna use. I have a second guitar here because I'm gonna change. I'll tell you what I'm doing, but it would just be.
Don't do anything surprise. Don't surprise us.
So oops, I don't want to spill my water. So I have this tuned right now. The 6th string is a C. So before I was kind of working in a tunings that were in the key of D, but for a really long time I was writing a lot of stuff that was in C, or I could use a capo, but the tuning in some form of C. Right now this is tuned C, G, D, G, B. D? Is that an E? D. And that, so I think it's kind of beautiful. You have like a G chord on top of, not quite a C chord, because you have the D there, but you have a nice, if I just put one finger down, second fret, 4th string, I have a nice, rich, low, vibrant C chord and a G on top. But let's I'll just change some things around and let's figure it out. So let's do this D, or the G down to an F. Okay, so that might be a problem, but we'll see. And I'm gonna change this B to an A. By ear here, so I'm so sorry to anybody with perfect pitch. So right now, this is I've never worked in this tuning before. This is C, F, D, G, A, D. I don't know if this, let's just figure out what's happening here, because this might be a stupid tuning, but anyway. Okay, so the first thing that I would kind of do is sometimes I would take shapes that I know from other open tunings and see what I have to change to get the chord. So I was talking about this with the D tuning, but let's find the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord with finding the bass notes of the chords on the 6th string here. So if this is a C, my 4 chord is going to be an F major, so I know this is an F. String here is an F, so I don't technically need to do anything there, but I could get the 5th. Sure, so I have 6th string 5th fret and 5th string 7th fret. Okay, let's keep something. That's kind of wonky for an F, so let's... Cool, okay, I can get the 10th to the 3rd of the chord here, the A. So I have what kind of resembles like a power chord if I was in standard tuning, but it sounds much more beautiful because you have the 3rd. I'm going to keep this note actually, so this is my G. I'm in an F major chord, but a G in an F chord is going to sound great. Beautiful. Okay, this sounds good too. This is the A string that's in the chord, and the D, great. Alright, so I just figured out a chord. I'm just literally the shape of a power chord in standard tuning. Now let's move it around a bit. Great. I like that. That's a nice sound. That's how I have 3rd fret, 6th string, and then the 5th fret of the 4th and 5th string. That's going to be an A flat. Is that right? Let me see. F, G, A flat. Yeah. A flat 3. It's a nice quality to it. So then I can basically, and this is engaging a little bit of my theory mind, but so if I'm in F major, I can have an F. So here's my basic kind of F sound, which again, if I was just playing an F chord in standard tuning, I wouldn't get these really beautiful resonating open strings. That's one really big benefit to an open tuning. Okay, now let's do flat 2. Okay, that sounds raunchy. But I could just use a 4th string. Okay, so 2, beautiful. So the 2 major sounds great. If I wanted to do 2 minor, I'm going to change the 4th string to the 3rd fret. Gorgeous. Let's do the flat 3, which we were talking about, which is A flat. I'm going to keep moving my hand up. Sounds gross. Let's keep moving. There we have our 4 chord. I'm literally using the same shape and just shifting it. So here, let's do, this would be like a flat 5 or a sharp 4. Gross. 5 sounds great. I could do 5 minor. Great. Flat 6. Okay, so that's kind of a. That one's the 3rd one. Flat 9 or something. So that's gross. So let's just move it up. Okay, I like that. It's a nice one. Cool, so that's I literally kept the same shape the entire time. That's nice too. Cool, and then, so because I really like having those open resonating strings, I could also say, okay, I could change these 2 though. I could make this D string, let's just move it to a C for fun. So when I do the same shapes, now instead of having that D, I have a C, which is in the key of F, or it's a chord tone in the key of F. And it just sounds a little bit different, but it's also very similar. So, sky's the limit. Not actually, but you can make adjustments as you go. If something's not to your liking, then change it. I don't really like having this as an F, this 5th string as an F, so I'm going to change it to a G. So now I have C, G, D, G, A, C. Great, so now instead of having the kind of power chord shape, I can do a shape that I much prefer, which is barring with my index finger the 5th fret of the 5th and 6th string, and now I'm just going to use my pinky to get the 7th fret on the 4th string. I prefer, I don't know, it actually probably is easier to do that shape, but I like having this low string here, this 5th string, I like having it in like a chord tone of the bass, because then I can keep those can just kind of ring out. They're really low, so you don't want to have you don't want to have those crunchy notes in a really low register. So I'm going to keep those as chord tones. really sorry if I'm confusing anybody. I'm just trying to find something I like. So this actually is a tuning. Now that I come to think of it, I've used this tuning before. But that would kind of be the process. Like that new tuning that I was doing with the CF, I just prefer it when the fifth and sixth strings are in fifths. So I think I used to write songs in this key. What? Sort of, yeah. So John Clark was just saying, "Tell Me Once." That one was with. So that was C, G, D, G, B, D. Yeah, so that was something kind of found from just noodling around and being like, okay, so if I want to do a kind of scalar pattern down, the strings have different intervals to each other, so I can't just do, you know, the shape that I know is a major scale. It's not a major scale, so just kind of playing around and finding, yeah, what I ended up landing on was like a really just playing around, yeah. But a lot of the time with my writing, because I think maybe because I am a bass player and I think a lot I'm really kind of bass heavy when I'm thinking about music, and I like having those kind of ringy, open notes in the top. I'm not really like a riff gal. I'm not really doing riffs. I'm more kind of, I do finger picking stuff, but I'm really kind of focused on having a strong foundation in the bottom of the chord. So these, you know, especially strings 1 and 2, those are so, you know, you can really afford to change those into whatever you want. This actually, come to think of it, when I wrote "Tell Me Once," I wrote it on electric, and this D string could tune up to an E without snapping, but if I tried to do that right now, it would snap, so I'm not going to. So this was actually kind of a modification of, I didn't want to have to bring an electric to all my gigs, so I modified the tuning a bit so that I could play it on acoustic, which is also something that you can do. But I think one, you know, in terms of, if I'm really trying to think of how can I, or what tips would I give for folks if they want to explore new tuning, and sometimes it's fun to figure out, you know, a really good way to figure out the higher strings is to figure out melodies or something and play them on those strings. So, or even just a major scale. So I know it's not going to be different, so I need to figure out what the scale is. Okay. No. So it's so strange when you're finding new places for your fingers to go. I keep doing that. So it's kind of just figuring out how you would play something. So then if you did have a melody in your head, or if your songwriting is particularly geared towards riffs or thinking about melodies, then a great way to know a new tuning is to figure out how to play that in the new tuning, and then kind of, you know, making any modifications that you need to do, but keeping in mind that one of the beautiful things about open tunings is that it's supposed to give you something alternative to standard tuning. It's supposed to give you sounds and ideas that you wouldn't necessarily stumble upon if you were in standard tuning. So I think that's why it works really well for me as a bass player who's thinking mostly about the bottom of chords. That open tunings work so well for me. I'm not trying to figure out riffs. I'm just playing chords. I saw there that we just have a couple minutes left, so gonna keep going though, I think. Or Elling, is there
keep going. Keep going.
is there any
happy.
questions? Still no questions?
No, Jinbone says this is blowing my mind and my ears are so happy.
Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
And Nicholas Joyner says, sounds great.
Great. Awesome. Okay.
Gracie, a question just came in from Gracie Reed. So basically, if you know what notes are in a chord, you can figure out what chord shape you need no matter what the tuning?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's certainly a way you can approach it. Certainly when I started playing guitar and I didn't know the theory very well, that wasn't what I was focusing on. But especially if you are at a point where, you know, this tuning is comfortable with me, but let's say I wanted, if you kind of do have, you know, an intellectual understanding of the intervals and what you would need to modify, then it would be quite easy to change one string, for example, tune it up or down or whatever, and to modify your chord shape according to that. But yeah, so that's definitely one way. The computer died. I can't see anything. So I'm gonna rely on this little headphone to hear what's happening.
You're still going. You're still going.
Still going? Okay, phew.
Yeah, the second camera is gone, I think.
Okay. Did that answer the question? I got a little bit distracted when I could.
I believe so.
Okay, great.
Carolyn Clark is asking, do you ever tune to match your voice?
Interesting. Maybe subconsciously. I do think that the key of D is one that is particularly suited to my range. So even if I'm tuned to something that's an open D, I can just stick a capo on. And sorry, just stick a capo on there, and then I'm in D. A lot of blues players play in an open G, which is not something I have explored. I just got a look from John Clark here. But I don't write.
Look, what is he?
You know, the blues man over here.
He's the blues man.
But I don't. Maybe I don't write songs in G because I don't play in that tuning. Maybe the reason why I've developed my range in such a way that I have is because I always like playing in like C, D, E flat, maybe F, and it's very easy to capo, you know, where you need to. But yeah, that's a great question. I think that's not something I've done consciously, but certainly if I wanted to, let's say I'm doing something and I want to play it in like an A or an A flat. If, for example, I was in this tuning here, that would mean putting the capo on like the 7th fret, which is outrageous, in my opinion. So that would maybe be an example where I would tune it differently so that I had to either use no capo or I just had a capo on fret 2 or something. But yeah, I think I just kind of stick to my CDs.
Someone on YouTube is asking, do you prefer special string gauges for your tunings?
I wish I did. I should. That's something I've been wanting to research for a long time, actually. I think I've snapped strings before, and I've thought there's this one absolutely ridiculous tuning that is in I think it's like a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song. I don't even know the name of it, but it's like E, 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 B, E. And that is not something that I would be able to do with these current string gauges. That would have to be something that I got, that I changed it up. But I think for me, I could definitely benefit from having a thicker gauge string on my 6th string because I always tune down. So I do, for a fact, want to do that at some point. I could also probably benefit from having something maybe a little bit lighter on the D string or the 4th string, just because I kind of wish I could tune it up to an E, but I can't. Especially if I'm tuning my 1st string down to a C, that's a little loosey-goosey, so sometimes I wish that I had a bit of a thicker gauge, but in terms of any particular gauges, I'm not at that point yet. Maybe I can let you know if I get to that point soon.
I I don't know anything about guitars or bass or anything, but I do own a U bass.
Oh,
And
cool.
they have those silicone or
Yeah.
strings.
They're really big, right? They're like super thick.
Yeah, they have a really strange sound when you
Mm-hmm.
to them. It's kind of a thwap,
Nice.
like a rubber band.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the only thing that comes to mind when I think about gauges or strings.
Yeah. Those are, especially in guitar. I mean, I keep round wounds on. I think I usually do light gauge, like a standard light gauge set. But I think it is actually something I'm glad that that this person asked this question, because it's kind of giving me that push I needed to actually get myself together and do that research and make the changes I need to. But the other thing too is that I only have one acoustic guitar right now, so if I want to play anything in standard, like I want to be able to go back to standard tuning if I need to. So I'd almost, maybe when I get a second guitar, maybe that's when I'll really jump into some custom gauges and keep it in these kind of lower tunings.
Yeah, right. I mean, like it must be a lot of like a lot of tuning that you have to do in order to change.
Yeah, I was so silly when I was younger. I have like these really cringy memories of spending so much time in a live set tuning, because I was at this point of exploration where every second song was in a different tuning. So it's like just and using, just one guitar. And then sometimes you feel silly if you have more than one guitar and you're like 16 years old and you're not really doing anything that's super technical. I just kind of feel silly, but
Don't feel
yeah. Thank you. But I did kind of
I
learn.
mean, you're older now, I guess. So
Now do I get to have two
you
guitars on
you
stage?
get to be you get as many guitars as you want.
But I think I figured over time, like that just became such an obvious, not great aspect of a live set. So I learned how to adapt a lot of the songs that I had in other tunings into one specific tuning or one that was close to it, so that I didn't have to switch much, which was much, much better. Much better.
Gin Bones has another question about recording. When you record, are you a co-producer? And do
Cool.
you ever produce other artists?
That's a great question. When I the last I released 2 singles in April, and those ones were produced by a friend of mine, Abby Lewis, while I was still living in Boston, and that was a very collaborative production process. But I sat back a bit in kind of a co-producer role, and let Abby kind of, we had a shared vision for it that we talked a lot about before, and she would always be checking. I could give feedback as much as I wanted. But that one, I didn't so much co-produce those singles, but when I did Evergrown, Ian Foster was producing, and I also have cringy memories from them, because I remember just like making him edit the smallest, stupidest things that didn't matter at all. And we recorded it in my grandma's house, and I remember like just sitting there for hours, and he was so patient with me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ian, so
What little
much.
like mouth sounds or lip smacks? Or...
Yeah, but I was definitely overstepping a role of not being like I definitely co-produced that record, because I was just like so particular, and I really don't like thinking about it, to be honest. Because I really trusted Ian and his process, but I also was so new to the recording experience that I was really afraid of, like, I really didn't know how it was going to translate. And I was in a comfortable space where Ian, it was totally fine that I could say things, but yeah, I made him edit out every single mouth noise and like the littlest tone changes and things, and spent hours. And at the end of the day, like, it really doesn't matter. It probably would have sounded a bit more. I don't know. I'm not gonna play the what if game, but I do like having a relationship with the producer or the engineer where I can give my input. and I have not produced other folks. I think it's something that I would be interested in. I kind of on the side, I learn about recording, home recording, but it's such a huge field that I did kind of decide for these couple years of my life that I want to just keep working on my craft as an instrumentalist and a writer. But I feel like at some point in my career, sometime down the road, I would really like to kind of get, behind a console or to get to work with artists in that capacity and a more production role. Because I do really like being in the studio, and I really like recording, and I find it so thrilling having your ideas come to fruition through trial and error or however it ends up happening. I think it's a really magical process. So yeah, thanks for that question too. It's a great question.
We're at an hour here, but did you have anything else that you wanted to show or explore or talk about?
No, I mean, I would just, if anybody has any further questions, please don't hesitate to be in touch. I do want to give a quick plug to myself, though. I am playing a show tomorrow at the Black Sheep with Kelly McMichael. It's 7 to 10, $10 cover, and I'm going to be doing around a 40-minute set there. And if, yeah.
How many guitars are you bringing?
I'm bringing one. I'm being a really good girl, and I'm bringing one guitar. But yeah, I'll be playing in different tunings. That's all I know how to do, really. So I'll be playing in some tunings, and yeah, please, just anybody who has any questions, feel free to get in touch. I think the way that I approach open tunings is, I don't know if it's similar to the way other people approach it. I have no idea. So, but I'm happy to share anything about what I know.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, Kat. This has been excellent.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elling. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to the Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Arts Society for making this happen, and to all the RPM challengers out there, good luck. You can do it.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.